What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. I truly appreciate all y'all coming back. The support has been off the charts lately. Like I said, we hit that 1,000 subscriber goal not super long ago, and that is all thanks to you guys, so I can't say thank you enough for that. Love continue to build this little community we got going on. The Discord is joining, it's popping off, so if you guys do need a place to come hang out, talk some gaming, talk Destiny, we got some LFGs in there. It's a good place to come hang out. Definitely would love to see you there. There is a link down underneath in the description there. But in today's video, I want to talk about some of our exotics that we have within Destiny 2 here. Now, out of the exotics, we have 93 total in Destiny 2 at this moment, and we only have 6 that have intrinsic champion mods within them. So that means our barrier, overload, and unstoppable mods. Now, I'm going to go through and we are going to rate them kind of on a tier list for the 2 best, the 2 that are kind of mid tier, and then the 2 that I have never used a single time for stunning a champion. So right here is our exotics. We're going to go over the 6 real quick that have the intrinsic perks for stunning those champions, so you don't gotta throw on one of our mods on our arms, so you can throw something else on that complements your build to improve it even more instead of wasting a mod for those champions, especially if it's one of the higher ones, like a use of 6 energy for something along the lines of like a glaive this season, or since the Bastion is an unstoppable, something with unstoppable infusions. But enough of that, we're going to go over these real quick. Like I said, first off, we have the trusty Dusty, the Arbalist right here. This one, not long ago, got the intrinsic ability for stunning those barrier champions and piercing that shield. This one is in our Kinetic slot and definitely one of the better ones. Another one that we have in our Kinetic slot is the Bastion right here. This one is that 3-burst Kinetic slug, super toxic in PvP, but for doing damage on champions and some of those higher level enemies within PvE, it is not too shabby. And this is also in our Kinetic slot. This one stuns unstoppable champions. Moving on to our energy weapons, we have 3 of them inside of here. First off, we got Ariana's Vow, which is good again for stunning those barrier champions and piercing that shield. This one has a solar burn on it, so it's good for those match games and dealing with like witches, something like that. Plus, having that hand cannon finder, using something like Lucky Pants, you can really make this thing pop pretty hard, and it is actually really good with killing some of those higher level enemies. Maybe not so much on the DPS side, but for sure dealing some extra little bit of damage. It does hit pretty hard. Moving on to a classic right here, if you need some extra DPS on bosses or if their crit sizes are too small, we have the Divinity Trace Rifle. It is an arc burn in our energy slot. This one actually comes from our Garden of Salvation raid. There's a couple steps that you have to do to obtain this. Definitely a little challenging, but it is super worth it to grab this weapon. This is very strong against those overload champions as well, and it can stun them. Plus, like I said, it provides that extra little bit of damage buff on it. So when you're doing damage, it provides a crit spot for everybody shooting it. So it is very good at taking down bosses and some of our champions that we have. Next on the list is another solar weapon in the Devil's Ruin sidearm, again in our energy slot. Now this one is pretty good because it has that unlimited ammo since it uses primary ammo, so that is really nice. And how you use it is you charge up its laser beam, so it's like a normal sidearm when you're just clicking, but if you use it and charge up, it's almost like a fusion rifle linear beam on it, and that is what is used to actually stun our unstoppable champion. If you go into its perk right here, you can see close the gap. When you hold to charge that high power, it stuns with that laser. So this one is pretty good just because it has that distance of the laser. It doesn't really have much fall off, which is super nice, plus having that sidearm capability and breaking those solar shields is also good. Plus it has unlimited ammo, so it's a little nice sleeper right there for unstoppable champions. So last but not least, we have our heavies in the exotic slot that do intrinsic champion stunts. First off, we have the Leviathan's Breath. This is a void combat bow that stuns our unstoppable champions with a massive heavy bolt. Now for me, I think that this is interesting just because it is the only heavy that we have, but stopping those unstoppable champions, it's nice to have that distance, and this thing does do a decent amount of damage on not just champions, but also bosses, so it does hit really, really hard. It's just the capability of having that inventory of only 10 shots on this with picking up heavy. There's better options out there for damage, but if you need it for those unstoppable champions, this thing with the distance and its ability to just blow through basically anything else besides a boss or a champion, it is a very good choice for that heavy. Once again, just so you don't have to use a mod on your arms for stunning those champions. Now for me, rating these comes in pairs of two. Basically, like I said, we have the best two, the medium two, and then the very bottom two, which I have basically never ever touched. So for my top two, definitely we have Arbalist and Divinity. Use Divinity all the time in raids and stunning those overload champions. Quite a combo with like Izanagi's for just wiping basically everything out. Super, super meta. Love it. Definitely our number one up there. Next is that Arbalist, just very good at stunning champions for that barrier, and its high ammo capacity is super good. Plus it does a decent amount of damage, plus it has that super long range, so it's definitely up there for having a meta build for those anti-champion barrier. Next, in our middle tier, I'm going to throw Ariana's Vow in our middle tier just because ammo capacity is not that great and its damage is also not that great compared to like Arbalist for breaking those barrier shields, but it does have a burn on it, so that is kind of nice, and its capability to have that little extra with like Lucky Pants, something like that, adds a little extra oomph to it. Now on the second middle tier as well, we have Devil's Ruin, just because I think with that unlimited ammo capacity from it using the primary ammo is kind of nice compared to having to run out of Ariana's Vow. But against unstoppable champions, a sidearm really isn't it. The laser beam does have a pretty good distance to stun on, but it's still not really there for that extra DPS. It's basically an ad clear weapon for those rank and files, but nothing too crazy on that weapon. That's why it's at the middle tier. Now in our bottom tier, I'm going to throw Leviathan's Breath on there, our only heavy, just because there are so much better heavies out there to do that extra damage with rockets, linear fusion rifles. Even though they can't stun a champion, their DPS is way, way higher, and having that ability with only 10 shots in your bow, it's just not it compared to even having 9 shots in your Galahorn. Lastly, at that bottom tier, we're going to throw on the Bastion. I just think you got to be a little up close for stunning those unstoppable champions with this. Plus, another thing, ammo capacity. Yes, you have a little bit more ammo in the fusion rifle, but being up close and personal with this thing sometimes doesn't work, especially in like those Grandmasters. Plus, the DPS really isn't there. It's kind of nice, but still way, way better options out there for stunning those unstoppables, and Bastion just isn't it for me. Definitely more of a PvP cheese than a PvE god tier weapon. So that's really it for me with this one. I hope that this helps you guys out, kind of pick and choose if you want to use some of these exotics in those endgame builds where you're going to need those champion mods, or if you're still going to go throw on some armor mods, which is totally fine. It works just the same. Just a big go-to for me is definitely Arbalist and Divinity. The other 4, definitely wouldn't waste your time on it. I would rather use legendaries and supplement some other DPS exotics in there. So thank you guys again so much for watching. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.